Hi everyone, FT here, and you found me in the middle of working on my Bixler 3 wings. So this is what the wing comes like. It's pre-hinged on the aileron. There's cutout for the hinges, but it's not actually hinged on the flaps. So on the reverse side, the aileron servo is already installed, but the flap servo isn't. So generally what you have to do is, if you're installing flaps, is you have to release this piece, make it so it's flexible, install a servo and run the wiring, and probably need to put an extension on the servo. Now I've done the other wing and I started to notice a few little concerns with the wing. First concern, which is the same with the Bixler 2, which is pure cosmetics, these decals are complete rubbish. They come off at the slightest moment. The secret here is to get some tape. Normally it's clear packing tape. I've just got some reinforced tape here. This is just a demonstration, just to show you. And then you can put your tape on and take the decal off. It's that bad. These are just complete rubbish. So what I find I tend to do, I tend to either take them off or cover them up if I can. So this H-King part will probably be will probably end up being covered by some clear packing tape. But it's a joke. The decals are just a complete joke on the Bixler 2 and 3. Yeah, but that's one thing. The second thing, which is far more important, is these are carbon spars, which give the wing some strength, and they're quite well recessed in, but there seems to be very little glue holding them in. So that needs addressing. The other thing is, this is a carbon tube or plastic tube that holds an aluminium rod for the support of the wing, and this seems to have very little glue holding it in place. So again, that needs addressing. So I'm about to get on and do that. But before I do, here's the wing I've already done. So on the wing I've already done, here are the flaps, and you can see I've taken the decal off from this point. It's just gone. Install the hinges and the horn. I've covered this Bixler 3 part up with clear packing tape, so that won't come off. And on this side, where the carbon spars run, I actually put 5-minute epoxy to cover it up, and then put this reinforced tape over it. And I've done the same on the tube that holds the aluminium spar. That's been epoxied over, and the same for this carbon spar at the leading edge. Obviously I've installed the servo. What I haven't done yet is put some of this tape down the wing to hold the servos in, and I've had to put an extension onto the flap servo. But that wing's basically done. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. As you can see, it's already coming apart and the thing hasn't even been in the air. So I'm going to get on and make up the other wing, put in the parts that need to be installed, reinforce it to make it stronger. So here's the other wing. Let's get rid of this bit first. So I've got some clear packing tape here, and I'm just going to lay it over that decal and take it off. This one seems to be on a bit better, but still just rubbish. Now for this Hobby King piece here, I'm just going to lay some tape over it. The way I do it, I tend to line up, start at one end, and then just lay the tape over it. That's it. That now has got the protection of that clear packing tape and it won't come off. With the end. This seems a bit stronger, this tape. These decals. Let's see, I've got a Bixler 3 on here. Well, I will put tape on it, but not until I put the horn in. Okay, so here's where we've got to put these hinges. And it doesn't really matter whether they go this way or this way. And the way I'm doing it is basically, you see here, putting some hot glue on the hinge, and I'm sitting it in, pushing it down. That's 1 inch done. I'll basically repeat that process for the others. And then hinge it. Get the other end in. That's good. We got one more. This end. And then hinge it, push it in. That's it. That'll be our flap hinges. Bear in mind that flaps only go down. Yeah, nice. So a few quick things I've done. I've actually literally wrenched this motor mount and the motor that came with the Bixler 3 out of its housing, which in fact is quite easy to do. So this is the original motor that came with the Bixler 3, and I am replacing it with this motor. Now this is the Turnigy. It's actually called an Aero Drive. I believe the number is 2836. Yeah, this is a 2836 1500, but it is a more powerful motor. So this is spare now. Now because I am putting the more powerful motor in, I had to replace the speed controller. So this is the speed controller that came with the original installed motor. So this is a 20 amp electronic speed controller, had the connections here for the motor, an XT60 plug, and this obviously goes into your receiver. So that's a perfectly good working 20 amp electronic speed controller, which I'll use in another project. So what I ended up doing is cutting the wires off the motor that came with the Bixler 3, and I installed them, soldered them into the new motor. So I've got the long cable that's required to feed it through the engine nacelle down into the body of the aircraft. I bought a Turnigy Plush 32, which is a 40 amp speed controller to replace the 20 amp. These don't come with any connectors, so I soldered on these 3 motor connectors and they just plug into there. You don't need to worry about what order they go in. And if you find the motor's running the wrong way, you can swap any 2 and the motor will run the correct way, or the opposite way. The only other thing I had to do was install an XT60 plug. I love these XT60 plugs. Again, when you buy your speed controller or the tonnagey ones, it doesn't come with a battery connector. So these will go into the Bixler 3. So this is the engine nacelle, where the original motor was embedded inside it. This was way down into here, and the way I got it out was I attached the prop shaft adapter, grabbed hold of it and gave this a right and left twist, which broke the nacelle gluing just very slightly, but it was enough to pull this whole thing out. So what I have to do now is re-glue this back together, and you can see a clue here. I've marked the lining. I have a special upgrade engine mount which will go in like so. This will glue into there, and then you have an adjustable mount for the new motor. Now the new motor can't go inside the housing because it's too big, so you have this external motor mount, and you can mount it into a few positions. You can mount it into the original position, which I can't do because I'm going to be using a bigger prop, and you can then raise this right up to the full height position. Now I'm going to have it on the medium position, and the way this mounts, the motor is actually mounted this way, so it'll sit like that. So you can see that very well. So it gets plenty of cooling because it's on the outside. And then if you want to use a bigger prop, you basically just unscrew that mount, raise it up, and it gives you more clearance to the body. So I've got that to do today. The other thing I've done is all these decals, which are absolute rubbish, I've covered in a clear packing tape so they won't come off anymore. And where the push rods go for the elevator and rudder, I've put reinforced fibre tape to hold them in place because they can be known to pop out. So all these decals you see now on this have been masked over with clear packing tape, so they're not going to come off. The front nose, I intend to use a camera, so what I've done on the front nose is I've put a couple of magnets. I put a couple of magnets on the other side, making sure you get the polarities right. And that just clips in. So that means I can take it off if I want to, stick a camera in there. Or just snap that shut. So it's coming along, taking a bit of time. I've also put reinforcing tape where the undercarriage clips in. Okay, so here's the original motor. You can see it's quite a lot smaller than the new motor that I'm putting in, including the diameter, and because of that this new motor will not fit inside the nacelle. Now I could gouge out some of the foam and then mount it in and run these wires backwards like that and use this standard prop adapter that just goes over the shaft. But then this would be encased, subject to whatever cooling the ducts within the Bixler 3 have. So rather than do that, I will be mounting this externally, and therefore I'll be using this prop adapter, which will screw into the body of the motor, and when it's secured the body will be rotating and it will be out in the air and it will be kept cool. So I'm going to attach this adapter onto the motor. I've got some Loctite here, thread lock, and these are the screws you use. They're tiny little ones, and you need a very small Allen key. I think they're like 1.5 millimeters. do them up finger tight at the moment. I don't know if this magnet will help keep the screw on. Yeah, seems okay. Just stop it. Well, got that now. Just tighten it up. This might be slightly too small, this Allen key. Okay. So that's the prop adapter on. This becomes a spare. This is the engine mount that came with the new motor, and as you can see it is much thinner than the upgrade engine mounts for the Bixler 3. Therefore the screws that came with the motor I am not going to use because they won't be long enough. I'll be using these four to secure the motor to the mount, and it's the same process. But having said that, these screws don't seem to be very magnetic. Bit of thread lock on there. Now these are beveled edges, and these are, so this goes this way. And it doesn't matter, first of all, it's all adjustable. So in fact I was a bit stupid, I suppose, putting thread lock on straight away, because I have to somehow get it centered. First. Let's see this out. Oh, oops. So much for my rare earth magnets. That's pretty centered. Yeah, I quite like that. There we are, that's the mount, adjustable mount. That's the spinning of the motor. Now I should be able to feed these cables back through that nacelle where I took the motor, the original motor, out of. And then the speed controller will connect up within the fuselage of the Bixler 3. Now the prop I've got is an 8x4. I've also got an 8x6, but I'll set it up so the 8x4 first and give that a go. Yeah, it's looking good. So, okay, here's the motor mount, the pod. I haven't glued this in yet. This is the new motor mount for the new motor, and this is where the old motor used to sit, inside there, where this gets epoxied into place, and then this is the new mount, like that. Now in that position it's in the original position of the original motor, albeit it's sticking out somewhat. But you can actually raise it up to the next position, which will allow you to use a bigger prop. The only concern I have is if I put it on the maximum position, which is up here, this ridge on the foam gets in the way of the shaft. So if I wanted it up here, I would just have to do some gouging and cutting out of this foam. Now I don't intend to do that. I think I can get away with it in the second position, which is about there, and I'll still be able to run, yeah, so that's 8x4. Plenty of clearance here. I'm actually going to be using an APC 8x4, but that's beside the point. And this also allows me in this position to run these wires in through the tube and into the fuselage where it can then be connected to the speed controller. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this all stuck back together, get this stuck in place, and then we'll see about running the cables and mounting the motor. Here is my Bixler 3 all finished. I thought I'd just show you how the engine mounts. So it's mounted up here. This is the part I epoxied in, and then this engine mount bolts onto it. It's pretty good. It sticks out into the airflow, which will keep it cool. This is a 6x4 E-prop, and the way you do a pusher is really simple. The numbers on the prop, so if it says 6x4 E or APC, which this one is an APC prop, the lettering faces forward of the aircraft, irrelevant to whether it's a pusher or a puller, or a tractor they call it. The writing on the prop always faces forward. Now the other thing is, a prop is very much like a wing in that it has a leading edge. Therefore, it's important that the rotation of the prop is correct. Now, the rotation of the prop, when it's on the front, is anti-clockwise. If you watch a lot of people starting motors, it's spun to the left as you look at the prop. This was running the wrong way, so all I had to do was swap 2 of those 3 wires around, and it is now rotating this way, which as you look from the front is anti-clockwise. But on this prop you can see this is the trailing edge here, and this is the leading edge, and this is swept back like on a lot of wings, and therefore this prop rotates that way. And I tell you, I've done a test on it and it has got stacks of thrust. My goodness. Now the other thing I'd like to show you is inside here. All the electronics, the speed controller, the receiver, are all tucked away under the wing, and the wing is held on by these 2 clamps that just push down and twist. But anyway, the battery goes as far forward as it possibly can, and as you can see there's loads of space in there, and unfortunately there's not enough weight, because even with the undercarriage on, it's still extremely tail heavy. And I have worked out that if I hand launch this thing, I'm going to need nearly 80 grams up in the nose. With the undercarriage on, with this battery, and using the standard foam canopy, I need to put at least 60 grams of lead right into the nose, and I mean right into the nose, right up the front. I'm talking about just in here, all stacked up at the front here. So that's the weight of the wheels, and I've included bigger balloon wheels so they're heavier, plus 60 grams, might even need to be 75 or 80, right up in the nose. And this 3-cell battery, it's just about right, the centre of gravity. Now of course I've changed a few things. I've added a bigger motor on the back so it's got more weight there, but apart from that, it's as it comes. The good news is it comes with one of these first person view platforms. Now I'm not into that at all, but I could have that mounted because it's slightly heavier and stick a GoPro on it, which would help bring the weight forward and reduce the baggage. If you have to stick lead on the plane, it's just baggage. It's weight that's not doing anything. So I think I'll play with the idea of putting the GoPro on the front. So at least if I'm carrying that extra weight up here, it's doing something for me. It's not just dead weight. But the CFG is basically 70 plus or minus 10 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing. Now the bad thing about this, the Bixler 3, is when they show you the centre of gravity, it's measured from the nose. So they say it's 134 millimeters from the nose back. Well, it's not easy to measure that. So having done some calculations and worked out the distances, I know it's about 70 to 73 millimeters from the leading edge. Just here I have a little cocktail stick glued in that sticks out, and the same on the other wing, so I can balance them. You can just feel underneath and you can feel them. That's where I want it to balance, plus or minus 5 either way. Yeah, the tail feathers just glue on. I use this Yoo-Hoo Pour Glue. Brilliant glue. Apply it to both surfaces, wait 5-10 minutes, and then shove them together, and it's almost an instant bond. What I then did, just to make sure, I ran some foam safe CA over the joins, and then just kicked that off with the foam safe kicker. The only other thing I've done, which I don't normally do, if I can get this up, on this one here, I've stuck an external aerial. So this has the aerial poles going up and down. The receiver sits inside, flat, with the aerials going front and back. So they're at 90 degrees with each other. It also looks quite cool when it's flying because you get a little red light to show that it's bound. The binding's been successful. There's no information about throws. I can't find anything about throws. So what I've basically done, I put differential and expo on all surfaces, 3 settings, low, medium, high. High is 100%. I think the medium is 60% and the low is 40%. I just have to see how it goes. So that's another ready. So I've got my Bixler 2 and my Bixler 3 ready to take to the flying field to do some flying. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well. I'm about 98% recovered from whatever I had, which knocked me out for 2.5 weeks. This was something I built on the last few days. Just give me something to do, get me active again. So thanks for watching, stay safe and well. I'll see you on the next video, and with a bit of luck we can get this one, Bixler 3 and the Bixler 2, up to the flying field and in the air. Looking forward to it. Cheers.